Hi, I'm Selena from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and I'm here with Joanne Roach-Evans, who is a author and illustrator of nature books. So for readers unfamiliar with your work, Joanne, how would you describe exactly what you write and illustrate?
Well, I'm very much interested in nature and learning about nature. And it just so happens that my first children's book was about seashells. And ever since then, all my books seem to be focused on the seashore.
Seashore.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I love.
right. So could you tell us a little bit about your latest book?
Okay, my latest book is actually a little different. The first four books that I published or were published are a more of a like a read aloud guidebooks almost. They're introductory books to the nature at the shore. And then this little piping plover, which is my latest book, it just came out with it this spring.
And it's
This
behind you.
one, yeah, this one is a narrative nonfiction book. So I tried to tell more of the story of the life of the first summer of a baby plover. So it's a little bit different than my first books. My first books, like, this is a scallop shell. You can find these at Cape Cod. So it was more like a expository or traditional book. And this one's a little bit more narrative.
Narrative.
Yeah.
So what gave you the inspiration for doing the piping plover?
Well, I was on my summer vacation, which we go up to Hampton Beach every year. It's a family vacation. And typically it's at the end of August, so near the end. So I wouldn't, most of the piping plovers would have fledged by then. Sometimes if they nest late, you might have a baby on the shore still. Well, I knew about them from other exposure down the Cape and in Plymouth, different people that I've met along the way with my other books. So whenever I saw the baby plover on the beach, I was so excited. And I was also a little bit alarmed because people didn't even see it. They thought it was a sanderling. So a sanderling is like in the sandpiper family. Those are when you have dozens of birds on the shore, typically they're together and kids love to chase them and dogs chase them and everyone thinks it's fine to chase them. So what happens with the plovers is because they look very similar, they're a similar size, people think that it's fine to chase them. Well, a lot of times they can't even fly yet and they're very vulnerable. So I was really concerned with this plover because I saw people walk by it, never see it. I've stopped children from chasing them since the first time this happened. Anyway, so I really was rather obsessed and passionate about getting this book out and helping to educate children and their families that this is a different bird, it's endangered, and we want to help protect it. Basically. So it really was a big message that I needed, that I was, again, I'm very passionate about getting it out there. Now, when I first was thinking about writing in this book, I was thinking about writing it in the traditional, this is a plover, they're endangered, and kind of telling the whole story in the sense of what people have been doing. I started to do a lot of research, found out like all these efforts that have been going on, not only on the East Coast, but in other places in the United States and in Canada. So I was going to tell the whole story about all the things that people do to protect them. And then I did some research. So at this point, I usually check out and see, are there other books on the subject? And I found several other books on the subject. And one was more of a narrative and a couple others were more traditional, more expository. And they kind of told the whole story. And I thought, it's been done. I do this to myself a lot. It's been done. There's no need for me to do it. It's already been done. And then I was talking to a good friend and she started to think about the story in a different way and tell me about what is it like for the little plover, a little bit more from the point of view of the plover. And that gave me the idea that, not only would I don't actually tell it from the point of view of the plover, but it's more focused on maybe what it would be like to be a little plover on the beach, and how do you cope with people and their activities. And I also wanted to tell it from the point of view of a child. A child's not gonna, necessarily understand everything that, people do to protect the plover. So what can they be aware of by just being a kid on the beach? What kind of experiences would they maybe see or relate to?
So your books are actually written for children.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yep. They're all for the younger crowd. And, a lot of adults, they'll say they read them and they learn quite a bit.
That's
And
good.
they're definitely meant to be read aloud. So even though there's this guidebook thing going on in it, I wanted to introduce the child to, a limited amount of information in the case of my Seashore series. And in this one, same thing. Try to keep it fairly simple so everyone can relate. And then if you want to read the back, then I give you a lot more information.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned some research. How much research did you have to do?
Well, I had to do a fair amount, especially for this one. I want to get my facts right. I say, that's the thing I always worry about. Is it factual? Is it true? And so there's a lot of great websites. I looked at a couple photographers who did a lot of video of plovers on the beach, because I actually came in at the end of the story, right? So when I saw that plover, it was ready to fly or just about to fly. And I sketched the young plover. Okay. So that was my first photograph, my first sketch that I took. And so I came in at the end of the story. So I needed to really learn about everything that would have happened before that point. How did they get to this point? How long does it take, etc. So I have a lot of great websites that I went to. And just like Fish and Game, New Hampshire Fish and Game, they have a non-game department. They have a lot of information. And I list all of those sources in the back.
Mm-hmm.
So just, doing a lot of reading. And I would get I get Massachusetts Wildlife. They have a little magazine. That came in and had a great article on the plovers. So a lot of different sources. And then I also I had a woman, Lisa Hutchings, who works at I'm trying to think. She works at the Joppa Flats Audubon in Newburyport. I almost wanted to say Newport, in Newburyport. And I had her read it. And she gave me a couple, things that she wanted to point out that maybe she wanted me to correct or whatever. So she gave me some input. And Dory Stoley, who was working at the Goldenrod Foundation at that time, she used to have me in for beach walks with the volunteers. They have a group of volunteers at the Goldenrod Foundation, and they would walk the beach. And what they would do is actually go to the beach during the summer and help educate people about different birds and what was going on. So I ran it by her too. And she also had some helpful suggestions. So I consulted a couple people, and I did just research online and different things that I read.
Mm-hmm. Great. So what is your favorite research story?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think being there firsthand and seeing them, that's the best research for me in a lot of ways. I mean, I enjoy reading about them. I enjoy talking to people. I talked to some of the volunteers at Hampton Beach to ask them what was the experience that summer. So I try to talk to them, but really it's firsthand observation that I love, being there. And then recently, I was up at Wells Beach and I was walking the beach, and I had seen a few plovers, but because the book was written, I necessarily wasn't worried about watching them or whatever. And all of a sudden I went higher on the beach, and I didn't think that the babies would be out yet. Like, I didn't think that they would be running around. And I almost feel guilty about this, but I didn't have my eyes out for them. And I was looking at the rocks because I'm thinking about my next books at this point. So I'm looking at the rocks and I'm down, squat at the beach, which is typically what I'm doing. I'm looking on the ground. And all of a sudden I look up and there are 3 babies running around in front of me. And then I see Mom come over and I just kind of stayed still, and I was like really excited, just like, oh my gosh. So I stayed still since then I've also read too that when you're sitting or you're in your chair, you're like on the beach, they're not necessarily threatened. The minute you stand up, they are on alert because you might be moving, right? So then all of a sudden I heard the pip. Okay, I'm going to do this for you. So it's kind of like this. I heard that. And when I heard that, I was like, okay. So then Daddy came in and he was the one that made the noise. So he wasn't quite happy about the fact that little plovers were there. They were feeding, no problem. And I got a little video of it and I put it up on my Instagram. But like I said, I kind of felt like, geez, I should have been a little bit more aware. But I just basically let them go by me. And then I got up slowly and walked away from them. But that was absolutely thrilling. And just being there with them was just the highlight of of everything, so to speak. So it's the best experience is being able to watch and see them. Now, I don't have like professional camera equipment. I have a okay camera and I had my phone and I took a little video, again, just trying not to move or interrupt them from feeding because it's so important that they eat, right? All of them. And so I don't have the kind of equipment that I needed to get sort of the images and get more of their life. I got a lot of that from video that was online, that it was on YouTube. So I'm very grateful to that. And I asked a photographer and the videographer, they're both photographers, if it was okay that I drew from those videos and from the photos that I used as reference. I had some of my own, but most of it was adults.
So what was the biggest challenge that you had in writing and putting out Piping Plover?
Oh, again, I worried about the facts. I worried about making sure everything is true. And also, you want it to read well. You want it to be a pleasure to read, but keep all those facts in there. So I guess that's it. It's just making sure that everything is well written and factual.
Okay. And drawn too.
Oh yeah, there's that part too.
Since you are an artist.
Yep. So it's a lot to make. Yeah, I have a lot to make sure that everything's right. And I'm the graphic designer. So there's like 3 phases of it where I just have to be on top of my game, so to speak.
Okay. So what else can we expect from you in the future?
Well, I have a couple more titles that I would like to do for the Seashore series. I've got those that I feel like I will work on next. I got 2. And then I have another book about crows set in Worcester. So, and that's a little different too. So we'll see. I do the best I can to keep working in amongst work and everything else that I do.
So what's your favorite part about being a writer on the whole writing and publishing process?
Well, I just enjoy expressing myself. It's another way to express myself, express my interests. I'm very curious. I've always been very curious, and even as a child. And I just felt that, I wanted to share the things I learned. I'm an educator too. I'm a teacher. I teach at Quinsigamond Community College. I teach art and graphic design. And I don't know, I think it's just part of who I am, that I want to share this. I feel like it's what I'm meant to do.
And you're also so interested in the seashore right now.
Yeah, I love the seashore. I love
Yeah.
the seashore.
So
So it's a great excuse to go. Oh, I gotta go to, we gotta go to this beach because I need to do this video or I need to do this research. So that's a fun part about it.
it's a good excuse.
Yes, it's an excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's been your favorite adventure during your writing career?
I've had a couple, but I have to say one of the favorites was when I was invited by Dory Stoley and the Goldenrod Foundation to stay at the Goldenrod House out on Long Beach in Plymouth, Mass. So you're surrounded by water. I look across the bay over to Plymouth Rock, and we were able to spend the night there, and that was just wonderful. But I enjoyed that whole experience. I enjoyed meeting people who are also interested in these things and educating children, their families, and people about life at the seashore. But yeah, that was one of my favorite adventures.
Great.
Yeah. Trying to think, I wrote down a couple others, but that one comes to mind.
And so what's the greatest lesson that you've learned thus far in your writing career?
It's a simple one, not to give up. I tried to get published for many years. During the time that I had my children and was raising them, I couldn't work hardly on anything. And so not giving up is really important. Not giving up, just keep following your dream, even to the point where my original publisher for the first Seashells book expressed an interest in the whole series. So I worked on those the whole time that I was waiting for that to be published and everything. And I tried many other, and they finally said that they really weren't interested in nonfiction that much, that they did it as an exception to their usual, what they usually publish. They like to publish fiction. And so, and they could only publish a couple children's books a year. So I started to, so they declined after many years, they declined picking up the rest of the series. So I was like, okay, so now I'm trying to get the book published, and I sent it out to a lot of local publishers, mainly because these are local subjects. These are regional subjects. And I don't know if the biggest publishers would be interested in something that may have a smaller market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was very hard for me to, you keep getting rejected, you keep wanting to try. And I started to feel my age, and I thought, I do not have enough time to wait any longer, because it takes years. You could take a year to hear back from a publisher if you hear it all. So don't give up. I decided to self-publish. I really didn't want to. I honestly did not want to, because I would rather have a team and the power of a publisher behind me to make sure that it's quality, to make sure everything is just right. And obviously to have the marketing that they can do for you. So I came to the decision to do it myself. And I rely heavily on my editor, who happens to be my niece, and she happens to be a marine biologist, and she happens to be an editor of research papers for the Navy. So she's very qualified, and she has been just such a godsend and a blessing to me to help me realize this dream.
Wow. So how difficult was it to self-publish?
Because I'm a graphic designer, I had to work out a few things, but I went straight to Amazon. I wasn't sure who to go through. And I did like a workshop, an online workshop. And the gentleman said, if you're going to self-publish, just go through Amazon. So I didn't actually have to ask. They have people and everything that you can pay to help you through Amazon, but I didn't do any of that. I did it all myself. I figured it out myself. Again, being a graphic designer, I knew quite a bit. So that was fun. And it's fun that I did it. It's fun being the graphic designer on my own project, because I can work with the flow of the book. I can work and edit my own artwork. So it gave me a lot of power to control how the book eventually comes to be. And again, with my editor, all those things, and my readers, of course. I've asked people to read it, kids to read it, families to read it. And so all that helped. But it wasn't that difficult once I sort of got over the hurdles of figuring out what I needed to do.
So you had a lot of advantages.
Yes, I have a lot of advantages. I think
Yeah.
what hurts a lot of self-published authors and illustrators is, or authors, I should say, they don't hire a professional illustrator. They rely on somebody else that may be okay, but maybe not a professional. And the saddest thing I see is they don't hire a graphic designer. They don't hire someone who actually knows what they're doing. So I was worried about a lot of those things. And I don't like to be, in a way, it's nice to have control, but it's not nice to have total control, because it's wonderful to have, like I said, to have a publisher with all those people bringing their expertise to the project. So I miss that, but yet I'm very happy, and I felt that the quality of the Amazon's printing and the book was excellent. And so then I went forward, because I said to when I published Seaweed, I said, if the quality isn't good, when I got those first proofs, I won't do this. But the quality was definitely good, and I said, okay, I can do it.
Great. Sounds good. So what's the greatest lesson that you've learned thus far in your writing career?
Don't be afraid to let go of some of your text. Don't be afraid to revise it. Sometimes it takes me a while, could take me a year or two to actually come around to the point where you don't need this section, or you could rewrite it, it'll be okay. So it's letting go of stuff that maybe you wrote initially that you liked or you felt was vital, or and then saying, you know what, you don't need it. So I guess being able to let go of some of the text, or being open to editing it.
Yes,
Right.
the editing part.
Yeah.
That's sometimes the hardest.
It is definitely the hardest. It's definitely the hardest. It's so fun at the beginning, you get your ideas, you put down your inspiration, you write a bit, it sounds great. But on every end of it, from the artistic end of it, finishing out all of those paintings, because it's a lot of work. Making sure that they're all okay, making sure the writing is okay, making sure the graphic design is okay. And as a photographer, I'm not a professional photographer. I think of it more as a hobby. That is all part of it. I was just thinking about it before we went on for the interview. Every part of this is all connected. The photography is so important to inform my paintings and drawings. Those paintings and drawings and the experience I have on the beach is so important to inform the text. So it's all connected. And even the graphic design, when I'm doing the graphic design, does it flow right? Do I feel like it's balanced? All those things come into play. I edit a lot when I'm at the graphic design stage. I edit my text. So it's probably a little weird way of working. It's not as traditional, maybe.
Okay. So is that the advice that you would give?
Don't give up, and don't be afraid to edit and let go of parts. And sometimes it takes time. It takes time maybe for you to come around to the point where you're ready to let go of it.
Okay, good point. So are there any groups, clubs, or organizations that you'd recommend to other writers that may have helped you?
I used to belong to the artist and writers group. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's got a long name. I'm drawing a blank again. The Writers and Illustrators of New England, and then they're nationwide. I was told many times, and I'm sorry, I'm not getting the full name. I should have wrote that down. But I was told by several people, the best thing you can do is to join that group. Now,
is that for children's book?
It's for everything. Yeah, children's books, everything. It's very common. SCBWI, Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators. Sorry about that. I should remember that. So most people that I meet say that that's one of the best groups to join,
Mhm.
that they have all kinds of workshops and support. I can't say I ever utilized them that much personally, but I was told by others who have more experience than I do that that would be the group to join.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
So now I have some questions about you as a person. What is
Okay.
what is one thing that most people don't realize about you?
I don't eat shellfish. I can't think of anything else. But you would think, people say to me, you're at the seashore, you don't eat lobster, you don't eat clams, you don't eat mussels, you don't eat oysters. No, I don't like any of it. When I was growing up, my brother would take us out and we'd dig for all of this stuff, right? We'd eat raw quahogs, everything. I just got tired of it. I didn't really like it that much. And that's all. It's just a little silly thing.
I thought it was that you see them on the, on the seashore and you say, oh, I can't eat those little things.
Maybe part of it, but mostly I'm just not, I just never really liked it that much. My neighbor used to have lobsters, like a lobster clam bake every year type of thing. And every year they go, Joe, you got to try the lobster. And I try it. And I'll be like, yeah, no, I'm just, so that may be a little odd thing.
Okay. What is or are your passions when you're not writing? And how do you make time for things, for the hobbies and things that you love?
Oh, they all intersect. That's so I go to the beach. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Okay.
I like to beach comb, which basically is, I like to find everything from bones to shells to rocks. I like to observe birds. So I do a lot of bird watching at home. I enjoy them. I enjoy bird watching. I enjoy a little bit of gardening. I don't garden like I used to. I was obsessed with it at one time, but I don't garden as much as I can. But part of it is aging, and part of it is I had to come to the conclusion that I couldn't spend hours and hours in the garden if I wanted to have time to write or paint.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a little bit of that, but I just like to be in nature, and I love beachcombing is my favorite thing.
So what's the most interesting thing you've ever found when you were beachcombing?
I found a bird skull. I like that. We found a dead carcass of a dolphin that was out at Long Beach.
Wow.
And so we found that, and there were ribs strewn around, and I picked up a rib and I saved it. So I have a huge collection of shells and bones and everything, you name it. If it's natural history, I adore it. I just adore it.
Wow.
But I have to say, you're not supposed to pick up. I was told later
Right.
that I wasn't supposed to pick up that bone. And so you got to be careful what you pick up. And even with shells. Now, when I wrote this book, the first book of seashells, I wasn't thinking so much about that you want to leave shells for the beach. You want to leave them because certain critters will occupy them. And also they help build the beach. Now, if you're in Florida, say you're a beachcomber in Florida, you'll say, it's crazy. The beach, there's so many shells. But in New England, you're going to see a little bit less. And it depends what beach you're on. And in summer is a lot of times the worst time to beachcomb because the beaches are picked clean. So I do a lot of my beachcombing off season.
That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So what are some of your writing related hobbies?
Reading.
Yes.
Reading. And then I've written poetry pretty much all my life. That was real intense. And I think that has helped me write children's books.
Okay. So what does your writing space look like? And what do you need to have around you when you're writing or editing?
Usually a cup of tea, chocolate. But I will just write in an easy chair in downstairs here in the house. I have a studio upstairs that's mainly for art, but sometimes I'll sit and write up there too. It's nice and quiet. And if I need to get away from the hustle or bustle of the when my family's around, then I might go up there. I have a beautiful front 3-season porch. And I like to sit out there too. So wherever I'm comfortable.
Okay. And whether you're writing, do you prefer silence or music? And if you like music, what kind of music?
So typically, if you're a painter or you're drawing, you're not supposed to listen to music with lyrics, because they say that engages the language side of the left side of your brain. I teach drawing classes and I use the drawing on the right side of the brain textbook. So I usually try not, but I noticed that I missed having a little something. So I might put on some like Zen temple music, something like that when I'm painting. But lately, I don't know, I've just been into Steely Dan lately for some reason. And I'm listening to a lot of him and it's very relaxing. And so, yeah, I might listen to that. Sometimes I just might, if the window is open, I might just like to listen to the sounds of nature and the birds. And
So is there a difference between when you're writing and when you're illustrating, what you listen to? Or
yeah. I mean, a lot of times I just like quiet when I'm writing, I would say more so.
Okay. So writers often have furry or feathered or otherwise non-human companions to help them through their work. And do you have any? And do they help you or hinder you?
I have a cat, and when she interrupts me, I would have to say I try to think of that as being in the moment. So, and she likes to come up and sit on my painting when I'm working. Thank God I make sure it's dry before she does that. But I'm on Instagram, and recently I posted a couple photos. I said, "Oh, I'm so glad to be back in the studio again." And it was her sitting in the middle of my painting. So I feel like sometimes maybe if she interrupts me or stops me, it's okay to take a break. Otherwise, it's not a a big problem.
Okay.
I try to look on it as a positive.
Okay. And do you have any favorite foods that you or drinks? I mean, you said
Yeah, tea, and then chocolate. I become a chocoholic. Yes.
uh-huh. Okay. And how you already kind of answered this question, but how important is the New England setting for your
Everything.
writing?
New England is really important to me. I love New England. Um, I love the beaches, as you know. I feel like it's really important. Everything I've written up to prior, even the Seashore series, was about growing up in New England. It was about my experiences. It's about the nature of New England. And you know how they say, write what you know? That's what I feel like. I write what my experiences are. I write what I'm passionate about. I write what I love, and I love New England.
Sounds great. I just have two more questions for you. Where can people find your work aside from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester? And I always give a plug for Annie's, and you can get Joanne's books at Annie's if you send email to orders@anniesbooksworcester.com, or you can call us at 508-796-5613, and we can get all of Joanne's books. And where else can people find your books?
A lot of local bookstores in the Worcester area. So Tide Pool Books and Root Press. I've even got books at Framed and Tatnick, and Book Lovers Gourmet in Webster. Trying to think, am I forgetting anyone? So I recently just put this up on my website. My website is jroach-evans.com. And if you just search on the internet, Joanne Roach-Evans, you will get a ton of results. You'll get my Etsy store, which I have a little shop, ETSY at Etsy. So I sell prints and I sell this book sign there. So obviously support your local bookstore if you can, because it's just a lot. It's a much more personal experience, right? And it is nice to support our neighbors, so to speak. I have a lot of, I have my books down at a lot of shops down at Cape Cod and several up in Maine. And I've listed those on my website just recently, so that you can find those. And that's where I'll have signed copies. That does not mean the books aren't at other bookstores. I just contacted a bookstore down in Connecticut think it was R something, RJ Julia. I just contacted them and they're gonna start carrying my books too. So that's exciting. So I've been trying to reach out to a lot of local bookstores, but if you can't get to those, again, you could ask, you could go to the library. The library carries it, several libraries in Massachusetts do. And so you could check out your library. You can go to Amazon if you want, if that's convenient. That's where I publish through. I'm trying to think where else. But you can always ask. So if you have a local bookstore and you don't see my books, just ask. They can get them through distributors.
Sounds great. And self-publishing, you must have to do all of your own selling pretty much.
I do. I have to do all my marketing, but it was made a lot easier by the fact that Islandport Press published my first book. So they got my foot in the door, so to speak, because a lot of the bookstores are familiar with that first book because that was published by them. So I owe them a great deal for, opening the door for me. I learned so much through them too. There was so much I would not have known when I went to self-publish if it wasn't for that experience. So that was priceless, really.
Great. And the last question is, how can we follow your work and share your awesomeness?
I'm on Facebook,
Okay.
Roach-Evans. I'm on Instagram, Roach-Evans, because I love photography too. So I'm taking photos all the time. I used to have a blog on my website, and I still have some of, that's still up there, but I find that I didn't have as much time for that. And I don't really think I had much of an audience on that. So I find that Instagram, I found like a lot of people who love beachcombing. And I found sort of like a lot of people there that love natural history, and they share a lot of their photos and their finds. So I love Instagram. But I'm also on YouTube. So I do videos from the beaches that I visit in New England. And someday I'll expand that. Hopefully when I have time to travel more, I'll cover more of the East Coast. But I do videos, and I will tell you what beach I'm at and what kind of shells they have there. I might talk about the seaweed. I might talk about the different marine animals that I see. I might show you the birds, but because I don't have real professional equipment, I can't get the birds as much as I would like. But mainly it's about what you're finding at the shore, beachcombing. So that's also Roach-Evans on YouTube.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I'm out there.
Well, thank you very much, Joanne. And I am sure we will be seeing you at the store.
Thank you, Selena. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye for now. We'll see you at the store.
Yep.